Hi guys, it's Wave McMaster here. I do have a video for you today. It is 10 regular things you need to do with your website, your WordPress website, in order to make sure that you are keeping it maintained and operating at its full strength. Now, the reason you want to do this is because if anything happens to your website or there's hackers out there, anything can go wrong with a website that is not kept sort of to a certain level. Because what happens is after a while, the quality of the website degrades, certain weaknesses become more vulnerable, and you can actually be at risk of losing your website or even having your website perform poorly because you haven't actually kept up to date with things and the ever-changing nature of the internet. So I've got 10 tips for you that I'm going to share for keeping regular maintenance on your WordPress website, and I'm going to start right now. The first tip is to make sure you keep your core plugins and themes updated regularly. This means that you're going to be more secure against hackers, security, and also you're going to be more up to date with the technologies that are changing online, and your website's going to perform better. Now, this is a really easy thing to do. If you're logged into WordPress, all you need to do is go up to the top left of your screen, click on the updates section, go in there, and you can simply update each one individually. As you can see there, you can update WordPress, you can click certain plugins and update those, and then at the bottom, update your themes. This is something you can do once a month simply by logging in, going through, clicking these bits and pieces, and making sure you're staying on top of things. It's really easy and something that doesn't take a lot of time. Now, the second thing you need to do is make sure you back up your website, because at the end of the day, if you're using a website, regardless of what happens, your website can go down. And if your website goes down, regardless of what you can or can't do, if you have a functional backup, you can always restore that backup and you're going to have your website back. It's sort of like the ultimate safety net for your website, because if things are gone, and you haven't got a backup, sometimes they can just be gone forever. Now, the way you can do this is I actually recommend HostGator, because they do have a backup service you can sign up for when you sign up, and they will do regular backups for you. But I also recommend getting a plugin such as BackupBuddy, because you can schedule backups and you can go in and check, see when your last backup was made, and you can send them to remote destinations such as a Dropbox or their own online stash storage system. So it's a great way to keep your website up to date, and you have full control over how frequently it happens, and you can keep the files on your computer, and it's a very powerful tool for making sure your website's backed up. So that way, if your website disappears, crashes, you always have that safety net to refer back to. Now, the third one is to always check for broken links. Because quite often when we do our websites, everything is working perfectly when we create a blog post or a page, but down the track, websites go down, other pages get removed, and sometimes we end up with broken links, and people are pointing these links off to places, and then their visitors are landing in the middle of nowhere. Now, this doesn't look good for you because you're referring to a broken page. It looks like you don't care about your website or your visitors because you've simply let things go for so long to the point where these links don't go anywhere. So one thing you can do is install a plugin. We'll go to a broken link checking website. I will link to a few below in the description, and just make a check to make sure that everything is linking to where it should, and then you can go through and make sure you either remove those links or point them to the right pages, and that way no one is getting stuck with your broken links going to the middle of nowhere. Now, the other one is to perform malware scans on your website regularly. Because once again, if someone infects your website, sometimes your website doesn't crash, or sometimes there's just not anything particularly obvious about what they've done. They might sneak a simple link into your footer or something like that, promote a drug, or sometimes they might just simply be using your website for other things and using the software there. So using a scanner, a malware scanner, to go through and check for some infections or any issues with your website is a recommended step, because it can also prevent trouble down the line. Now, one thing you can do is go to the free Security online scanner, or you can download WordFence onto your WordPress website. It's a plugin, and you can scan regularly and see if you can spot any vulnerabilities that way. Once again, a great way to make sure you prevent certain things from going wrong in the future. Another one is to clean up your WordPress database regularly. What happens is if your WordPress database gets too bloated, it becomes a lot of work for the server to find the information it needs. So by using a plugin called WP Optimize, you can actually clean up your database, get rid of old revisions you don't want, get rid of spam, trash comments. It'll also clean up and make sure everything is where it should be. And that way your database operates more effectively, and therefore your WordPress website runs quicker and is less likely to crash or have errors. So that's another quick tip, is to get that WP Optimize plugin installed even once a month. You can uninstall it once you're done, and just do a cleanup of your database every so often to make sure things are where they should be. Now, this one is more of a manual tip, is performing a content audit. So go through your blog every so often, make sure that you're not putting any out-of-date content up there. One thing I try to do very often is to update pages. If maybe might even be every 3 or 4 months, I'll go through a website and go through all my pages, just check through it all. I wouldn't necessarily read every blog post, but just make sure that everything is up to date. Because sometimes if you're promoting an outdated method, it can actually work against you for your search engine rankings. And if people land there, they're going to bounce straight away and think that your website is out of date. So it doesn't look good for you. It's not great for your traffic. It just doesn't really help anyone. So getting in every now and then and either shutting down those blog posts or updating them, and then you can even republish them if you want to at that newer date, is a great way to make sure that you keep everything up to date, and that way you're not, once again, you don't have any weaknesses in your content. So performing a content audit, making sure everything is up to date, is a great way to stay on top of things. Now also, you've got to moderate your comments. Sometimes you can set up some spam filters and still get a few dodgy comments come through. People who are just out there trying to build links, maybe they are abusing other people in your comment section. You really need to make sure you're reading your comments, and for one, you should be responding to people anyway, but just go through, read your comments and moderate them. Make sure there's no funny business going on, because it's another way that people can get lost. And if comments are quite vague in nature, chances are it's a bot. If they don't talk about the actual content on the page and just say, wow, great post, and don't really talk about anything, chances are it's a spam comment. So you can go through and delete those as well. Another thing I like to do is when you're moderating comments is if someone doesn't have a name in their title and they use keywords, I tend to just trash that comment, because that is someone looking for a link and they're not really looking to add value to your blog post. So moderating your comments, that's definitely one way to also increase the quality of your website. Another one you should be doing is checking your website's speed. Now I tend to head off to tools.pingdom.com, because you can type in your WordPress, your website address, pick a server and the location, and run a test. It'll show you exactly how fast your website is running, and you'll see if you need to make improvements or not. Now, one of the good things about this is it also lists what is taking the most time, so you can actually go through, find what's working and what's not, fix it, move it, delete it, whatever you need to do to speed up your website. Because if your website's taking too long to load, people are going to bounce and they're not going to use your website. So it's very important that you get into the habit of checking the speed of your website so you can keep your conversion and your traffic running nice and smoothly. Another one is to test your forms. If you have contact forms or even other forms on your website, test them, because sometimes you'll build a website and the contact form will work perfectly, but then all of a sudden, at some point, it'll just stop. As a web designer, this has happened a couple of times for me, not a hell of a lot, but it's something that now I keep an eye on, because if you're not testing your forms, sometimes you could be missing out on customers or even other sort of opportunities that could be coming in through those forms. But because your form for some reason stopped working, maybe the server's made an upgrade that interferes with the email being sent, it can cause a lot of issues. Now this is one of the reasons why if I've got a really important form on a website, I'll use Ninja Forms, because then I can actually go in and check the submissions in the submissions area. Actually, if I don't receive an email, any submissions made in that form are actually listed on the website itself, so that way you never miss anything. So I do recommend that as a forms plugin, but also just check your forms every now and then, make sure they work, and that way you won't miss out on any important information. Now finally, the final tip is all those topics I mentioned, create a schedule. If you get a calendar or you got a weekly schedule, pop it in there, or a monthly schedule, pop it in there so that way you're reminded. Set an alarm on your phone or on your tablet, and just if you can get that happening regularly and set that schedule, then you're always on top of things. So just whatever way you prefer to do that, it's very easy to do, and highly recommend it, because that way you're not going to miss any of these bits and pieces. Now, if you're looking to get a list of those things, I do have a blog post which is in the description below listing all of these. The link is also up on the screen. Now, that way you can go there and use that as a reference if you want to print it out, or simply just copy the bits and pieces off it. You can go from there, and that way you have your checklist that you can use once a week, once a month, once every 3 months, and that way, yeah, you don't have to try and remember or watch this video and write down the points. So I hope you find that one useful. Now, thanks for watching this video. If you did like it and want to see more videos like it, please give the video a thumbs up. Also, consider subscribing to my YouTube channel if you want more content like this for WordPress and building your presence online. And otherwise, I hope you have an excellent day, and I will talk to you next time. See you later.